Welcome to using Seesaw for DigCit and Reflection. So this should be a really good session, not only about Seesaw, but also about DigCit, because it is Digital Citizenship Week, or we're rounding out Digital Citizenship Week. So I am very pleased and happy and honored to have one of my good friends presenting today, Leticia Citizen, and she is going to introduce herself and all of that good stuff. I do want to say, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, no, you don't get a certificate, but you do get the knowledge. So right under this video, you will have the link to the resources. Make sure that you get that so you can have it. Who am I, you may ask? I dare you. But I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I am your host for this amazing webinar and the other amazing webinars in the Educator Alexander webinar series. So what is coming up this semester? We have TCCA, which is coming up this Saturday in Houston, Texas. It is completely free. It is in person this year. So I am going to be a vendor and I'm going to be there presenting every session. I have other people that I know presenting sessions there. It's just such a good conference, and it's one day and it's free. So if you're around the Houston area, sign up now. Then the last EA webinar for this semester, Google Educator Certifications Panel. So a panel of a lot of serious and wacky and crazy Google certified people. So certified in coach, innovator, and trainer for Google. So if you're interested and you're like, okay, I want to know more about it, come hear the panel. Even if you're like, I am a trainer, but I don't know how to really get involved with stuff, come hear the panel. So that will be our last EA webinar for this semester, but we will come back in January. Okay, and if you want to sign up to teach a webinar, or if you just want to give us a suggestion for what you want to see in the webinars, do not be silent. Go and sign up and let us know what you want us to present next semester. And if you want to actually try your hand at presenting, or if you're a lifelong presenter, sign up that way too. So make sure you let us know, what do you want? So I know you love my voice. I understand. I love it too. But that is not why you showed up today. You showed up to see the amazing Leticia talk about Seesaw and DigCit and Reflection. So without any further ado, we are going to get to our webinar.
All right. So like Desiree said, we are here to take a look at how I'm using Seesaw with digital citizenship, and for an opportunity for students to always take time to reflect, not only with each other, but also soliciting that feedback from parents and from their global peers. So let's jump in. I know that Desiree went on ahead and gave you the link to access this slide deck. So, whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you are someone who's just working with one device and it's just better for you, to watch as I go through it, by all means do so. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to engage too. So, if you want to split your screen, right? Where you make one thing smaller and the other one, we're going to do some things, but again, do what's comfortable for you. Use the chat as well to go ahead. Desiree and I are both keeping an eye on that. She more so than I am, but there'll be opportunities because I want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're seeing here. And we're also going to join a Seesaw class as a student. So don't feel bad. And don't worry about whether or not you have a Seesaw account, because I've set up a space for you to participate as a student. And then if it's something that hey, I want to jump into this because it is a freemium, there are free aspects to it, then I have a special code for you to get some extra bells and whistles when you do sign up for free. And if you are someone who has already signed up and you use Seesaw as a teacher with your students, then I'll also show you how to jump on as a student. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so you've heard me speak a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I am Leticia Citizen. I am a 22-year veteran educator. I currently am an I-4 coach at Hawthorne School in Beverly Hills Unified School District here in Southern California. This is my 4th year as a coach, but I was in the classroom for 18 years, where I taught kindergarten for 2 years, 1st grade for 7 years, and then 5th grade for 9 years. So all the things that I'm sharing with you, I not only use in my own classroom, but another part of my responsibility as a coach is not only to work with our teachers closely and work with our parents, but I'm also working with our students. And I get to do that in a great way. Something that I can stand on the soapbox for and talk about all day long is digital citizenship. And so we'll talk about that, like how I'm doing this with students currently. I work with TK5 students, seeing them every 2 weeks for about 30 minutes, diving into the space of what it means to be a digital citizen, and not only to learn the do's and the don'ts, but also have the opportunities to go ahead and practice these skills, because that's what we want. We want our students practicing these skills. So Twitter handle's there, email is there, mother of 4, 3 of them are in college. Our last one is in high school. She's a junior. Actually, we get to actually say that we are a family. Currently, all of us are in college. So not only are my 3 olders, in college, like my oldest just started his master's program at LMU. My second child is in her 3rd year at the University of Oregon. My 3rd kid is at San Diego State, has a 2nd year. But our youngest, who's in high school, is actually taking college courses while she's in high school at a campus nearby. It's part of a program that she has with her school. I just started my doctoral program, so I'm on this journey to be like the amazing Dr. Alexander. And then my husband is also taking courses to finish up his BA. So right now we are all in college, which is pretty phenomenal and pretty interesting dynamic to live lives as students, especially for my husband and I. So that's been interesting. And the conversations with our own kids has been interesting too. Like, it's the new dynamic. So we've been venturing in that space in this season, and we can tell you all about it too. So I am an ambassador for Seesaw and for Common Sense. You can see my badges there. And I am a certified educator too for Seesaw. All right, so here we go. So just a quick brief overview. We've got we're going to look at some Common Sense digital citizenship curriculum. We're going to look at how we can take that, bring it in tandem with Seesaw to create some engaging lessons. And then we're going to venture into leveraging virtual classrooms if you're still in that space, or how to do that even still in person, some picture books, some videos, and some more that's all connected to reflection. All right, so before we start off, I would like for you to join our Seesaw class. And this is also for those of you who are watching on the recording. Now, I will say this code that you're about to use, only like it shows right there, it's going to expire October 29th. So let's say you are someone who is watching this recording after the fact. If you would like to still get into that class, reach out to me. I can go ahead and generate a new code and you can join. But for those of you who are here right now and who are watching until October 29th, you can go ahead and join that class, and then you're officially in that class. So here we go. Let's go ahead and do this. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate. Oh, no, don't want to do that. So I am actually going to set up a new tab with a different account just so I can show you what to do. So let's say right now I am a teacher in a Seesaw class. So this is my work email. And I'm going to actually log out of this, okay? Because while we can join as students, we can't do it while we're still logged in as a teacher in Seesaw. Now, if you're someone who does not have a Seesaw account, don't worry, because the steps that I'm going to show you will still mirror for those of you that do have an account. So right now, I'm going to go ahead. Again, I clicked in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to click on the gear that's here. And I'm going to sign out, okay? Because again, if I'm going to join as a student, if I already have an account, I can't still join as a student until I completely log out of my teacher account. But for those of you who, so no matter if you have an account or not, right now, we are all going to start in the same space. So you're going to come here to Seesaw. Thank you for putting the code in there. And I'll also put the link for Seesaw there. Oh, I don't think it generated. Desiree, can you take care of that? I think there it goes. All right. So what you're going to do is go ahead and click on I'm a student. And before you do anything else, I actually gave you a special code. So that way it automatically puts you into our class. And you will go ahead and type or copy. Desiree has been so nice to put the code for us in the chat. We're going to go ahead and type out that code. There you go. And then click go. And once you do that, now it's asking you to go ahead and sign up. Now, if you are someone who is with a Google account, it just makes life easier, right? To go ahead and sign in with Google. Or if you prefer, if you have something that's other than a Google account, like I still have my AOL account. Shh, don't tell anyone. I know people talk about that. So if I wanted to use that account, then I would go ahead and fill out this complete form. But for now, just because I've already have it set up, I'm going to go ahead and sign in with Google. Now, here's where people will say, well, can I still use my teacher? If my teacher account is associated with my Google account, is that okay? Yes. Okay, and I'll show you why once you get in. But yes, you can still use the Google account that if you do have a teacher account, you can use that same email address. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. I'm selecting my school email. And now it's going to put me in, right? So you'll know that you are in our digital citizenship Google Classroom that we're going to practice with right now because it says Ed Al. I went on ahead and did Educator Alexander, digital citizenship. And then you'll also see where it says student. Okay. For those of you that maybe you've had a teacher account and you're using that teacher email, I want to show you how this does not impact how you navigate. So again, if you come up to the top left-hand corner and click your little icon, it shows that I'm in my class. That's my one class. But I'm going to go ahead and click on the gear. And you'll see that now I have an option to switch back to my teacher account. Also, because I am the coach at my school, I'm the one who has the admin access. So I manage our entire platform, actually for the entire district. So I also have that option. But for you, if you just have a teacher account, you can then switch back to teacher account. Okay. And I'm going to remind you too, if you are someone who's constantly using Seesaw with your students, and let's say on Monday, you go back to school and you're going to Seesaw and you're wait a minute, I'm still a student. Make sure that you check that. Don't fret. Come up to the icon in the top left-hand corner, click the gear, and then switch back to your teacher account. Okay. But once you're in our class, you'll always be in our class. Oh, yay. And Anne went on ahead and joined our class. Awesome. But again, if it's more helpful for you to just be here on the screen, just watching what's going on, that's perfectly fine. If you want to join the Seesaw class later, so that way you can play around with things, this is your sandbox. Go ahead and do so. But remember that you'll be participating as a student. Okay. So I'm just going to give people time to go ahead and do that. And so as you are joining, I'm going to go back. So I'm going to move this for now. And as you join our class, let's go ahead. Desiree, are we good that you're still seeing my presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So once you join that class, I have an activity that I would love for you because you've heard me talk. I know that some of you shared in the chat where you're from, but I always love to find out who's in this space. And so I've actually set up an activity in our Seesaw class where you're going to go ahead and I'll demonstrate that in a minute, but you're going to go ahead and click on activity. The directions are there. And I just would love to know your name, your position, your location, I know some of you in Peru, we've got Lebanon, we've got Kentucky, and then something that's filling your bucket. Now, again, if you are someone who would prefer to just stay in this area and not necessarily go to Seesaw right now, go ahead and share that in the chat. So again, your name, your position, where you are in the world right now, and what's filling your bucket. As you're doing that, I do want to demonstrate, I'm going to show you the teacher and the student side of that, right? So I'm going to go back and bring in my student view. This is my student view. And so as a student, what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and click on activity. So you see I have journal, which gives me like the full on timeline. I have activities. There's inbox and blog, but we don't have to worry about those right now. But I'm going to click on activity. Okay. And you'll notice that I have one activity that is here that who says who's in this space. Now, when I set up this activity as a teacher, I can type out as much text I want to. You'll see that there's also an option to listen. Now that you've learned a bit about me, so you can record audio to go ahead and state the directions. So this is perfect for my littles. Remember, I work with TK5 students. At our school, we use Seesaw for our TK2 students. This is the platform that we use, to disseminate information, to get students to engage in different activities. And so I'm going to use all the modalities in terms of accessibility to really engage my students. So I always take the time to record the directions, and the students love it. Even if they can't read, they're like, I'm going to still listen, which is really interesting. But this allows our students to do so. You know what? This is something that I need to consider too. So I know that some of you just joined our class, right? Now let's say that and this is something I always have to think about, because I've already set up these activities, maybe you're in activities right now and you're like, I don't see anything. That's because I pre-set up these activities ahead of time. You do have the option to schedule your activities when they're going to come out. But because I already scheduled them, there's a chance that maybe all of you don't have it. Oh, it looks like maybe so. Okay. So for this one, just in case, sometimes when you already have activities there, students who join after the fact won't see that activity, but maybe I still want them to do it, right? So I'm just going to show you very quickly how on the teacher end, I can still give access to those students to go ahead and complete that activity. And I just thought about that. So again, I'm in activities. I'm looking at that activity. I'm going to come to the 3 dots that are in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to click on that dot, and I'm going to come to edit activity. Okay. And I know this is something that we've reached out to Seesaw about, maybe is there an easier way, but this is the workaround that we found thus far. So this is my dashboard, so I can edit activities. So if I wanted to, I could change the title as well, that stuff. I don't want to do any of those things. I want the activity to stay the same. I just need to make sure that all my students have access to it, because some of you joined after I already had shared this activity, right? So you'll notice right here, it says assign to. And at the moment, it is clicked to all students, but I just want to double check. So I'm going to click on edit and see right now, I only see 3 students, but I know that some of you joined. So I'm going to refresh just to see what's going on. Click edit again, and there it is. Refresh button is a lifesaver. It is my favorite friend of all times. Okay. So if you're you saw, I couldn't see people in there, went to my trusty friend, the refresh button, and now you're all here. And I see that you've all, it sees how did what it's supposed to do. It added you all, so you all can see that activity. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click that check button and click save. And now I'm going to go back to student view. So thank you for going on that journey with me, just to make sure that you got it. All right. So you are here as a student, right? From the student view, and I always tell my students, you see the green button, click on the green button. Always click the green button, right? We talk about this green button all the time with the white plus sign inside. And so again, the directions are here. I can listen to it. And now I want to add my response. So I'm going to click add response. What happens is I've already attached the template. Now, if I did not have a template there and I just wanted you to go ahead and, start from scratch and create and do your own thing, then this canvas would have just been white. But I created a background for you. So when you click add response, that template is there for you to access. And so now, again, I'm going to give a quick overview because I'm not sure. So I have an issue. Yes, thank you. That's right. Now you can go ahead and set up this space how you want to. Now, here's something, let's say that, and sometimes my students do that. They're like, oh, listen, I forgot. What am I supposed to do? And my students will say, click on the view button. So they know that above their activity, they can go ahead and click on view instructions again. They can see my example that's there. They always take a look at that, just for some ideas, but most of them like to start from scratch and do their own thing. The verbiage is there. And again, that audio button is there so that way they can go ahead and listen to it if they are still acquiring their reading skills, right? So they'll come back. You've got options to do text, right? And I tell my students, use whatever you want, because you'll notice in the directions, it says, choose how you want to respond. Use either the text box, the audio, the microphone, you've got the pencil, the pen, the camera, or even video. Kids love having the options. The tools are there. Let them explore, let them play around with it. Again, this is all part of being a digital citizen and being able to navigate these spaces and do so responsibly and having control of how you want to do that. So, I can go ahead and set up the text. Students, and again, in the beginning with Seesaw, we take them one by one, like do these activities. So the first time I share an activity with them, I only want them to use text. The next time I do an activity with them, I only want them to record audio. The next time around, I'll do maybe audio and text. Next round, go ahead and take a picture. Great. So giving them these opportunities to have these activities where they're like really focusing on being able to leverage the tools, because there's a lot here. And we just want to still connect it to an activity, low level kind of, but giving them the opportunities to practice this. And then when it's time to do the big things, they're ready to go. And some students will jump ahead and be like, well, I clicked on this one too. Then click away. I always tell them, click on all the buttons. If it explodes, you know not to click that button again. So we're good. So you can enter text. If you click these three dots that are here for the text, you have some styles that you can change up. So there's some choices for text, choices for how you want the background to look in terms of your text box. You don't want a box at all. And, a lot of times I don't worry about this stuff right away, but some students go and figure it out. So let them go ahead and explore. But you've got options to record your screen and voice, right? So it's starting to record. You get 5 minutes. So when it comes to audio and recording your screen, students get 5 minutes per slide. And notice how I said per slide, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But once you're finished, you go ahead and click done. Remember, always the button with the green button with the check mark. They can listen to it, right? So it's starting to record. You get 5 minutes, right? I didn't mean to do that. So you just saw me do something. I just clicked the check mark and I wasn't even done demonstrating. So new problem arises. How do we rectify this? So I get students who say that, Miss Citizen, I clicked the check mark and I wasn't finished. What do I do? Friends, it's okay. I'll show you. So typically, right, you can show the students how to come down here to the three dots, right on their post, and they'll go to edit post. And voila. However, I will say that for my littles, I have my setting, oh, good question, Gail, and I'll come to that in a minute. I have my setting with my littles set up so that way I moderate their responses. And so the way to do that is I'm back in the teacher view. Okay, there's the little like wrench. And I've got some options here that right here, it says new items require approval. So usually I have this toggled on for my TK2 students. And so when they have the freak out of like sending an activity before they were finished, then I actually have to do it on my end where I would click on their activity. And there's a draft button, and see, it's not here right now because I don't have it unmoderated, but there's usually a draft that then I can send it back to the student, and only me and the student will see it, and then they can go and edit their activity. Okay, so if you're not moderating the responses, they can go ahead on their end and edit, right? Again, by clicking the three dots. By clicking that three dots, they can edit. Or if I'm moderating it, then I have to do it on my end. So you'll see actually that draft button is here on the student view. So let's say that as a student, they're working. And sometimes, like I told you, we only get 30 minutes. I only get 30 minutes with them. So sometimes if they don't get to finish an activity, and this kind of goes with your question, Gail, it just depends on, because I see all the students, it depends on the level of the students. So I have some classes where the only time that they touch an iPad, so we have iPads for TK2. The only time that they touch an iPad is when they're with me. So things go a little bit slower because the students are not as familiar with things and they're still processing and they're still learning how to navigate the tool itself. So it might be where, it might be to where we only get as far as like, they may have got to like the first part, or maybe they just typed their names and that was it, because they're still like, ooh, like it's still new for them. So it takes that entire 30 minutes, especially because, and I'll show you this, like there are some other things that we're doing before we even dive into that activity. Then the classes that like engage more with the tools and it's really interwoven into everything that they're doing throughout the day, those classes, we can typically get through like some of the activity, and I'll show you, you'll have access to some of the activities that we do for DigCit, so we can get those done. But I do, plan mentally to like, for one lesson that it's gonna last 2 class periods, because I only get 30 minutes with them. But you just have to gauge it with your students, and that's the other thing too, maybe in the beginning, and you have desktops, even with that, like our 3-5 have desktops, so 30 minutes each student. No, so I'm meeting with an entire class. Yeah, I'm not meeting individually with students, I'm meeting with an entire class at one time. So that's the other thing too. So for students who finish early, like this past week, they finished an activity, and some of them, like once we go through it and we do like our direct lesson, which is like 5 minutes, the rest of the time they're engaged and they're doing their stuff. Some of the kids, when they're finished and I go check it, then it's like, okay, so you have some choice. Like they might have another activity that they need to finish up, or they'll just go into Seesaw and they can go and post and do something. So they'll like say like, oh, I want to share about a book I was reading. Sure, go ahead, do that. The rest of the class is doing the same activity, if that makes sense. So every student is completing this activity individually, and then as they start to finish, right, you just like plan for the early finishers. And they're helping each other. And like I said, right now, everything is still new. We just returned to school. A lot of them, especially my littles, like they've never been in school in person, and this is their first time. So they're navigating that. So we're going really slow in the beginning, slow to go fast in the end, kind of thing. So, so once you've gone on ahead and you've completed that activity, then students would go ahead and click the check mark. let's say students are not finished and they're like, the citizen, but I'm not done. Then I teach them how to go ahead and click the draft button. And what the draft button does is it doesn't like completely turn it in, but as a teacher, and I'll show you that view, as a teacher, I'll still see that draft. So that draft means that I see it, the student sees it, but it's not on the journal for everyone else to see, on the timeline for everyone else to see. Okay, so I'm going to come back here, I'm going to refresh. And again, this is my teacher view, right? This is the activity. I can go ahead and click on, it tells me you have 2 responses. You have no waiting for approval because I didn't set that up. I have 1 draft and I have 4 who have not responded, right? So I can click on that and I can see. So you'll see right here that me as the student, I had submitted my activity as a draft. And that lets me know as the teacher that the student was not finished. Now I can still click on it, you know, and take a look at it and see what they're doing, especially if they have different slides. But I'll just leave it alone. And so next time that we meet, then, you know, I'll check in. I already know too how many students had finished and how many students need more time. And how do you grade this? Good question. So let's see, I can take a look at Anne's, right? She just has the 1 slide. You've got a couple of things that you can do now as the teacher. You'll notice at the bottom left-hand corner, right? You have the like button, which I do talk about this with students. You know, I'm very intentional about like when we go and use the like button. So a lot of times I'll say, you know, wait until everyone is finished. Then I'll say, all right, now we're going to go in, we're going to take a look at everyone's activity, look at their responses because it's all on their timeline. And I'll say only like 3 classmates work if it was something different that you said, right? Or I might say today, after you look at your classmates' work, go ahead and like 2 of your classmates who said the same, you know, it resembled something that you said. So I'm very intentional because we live in a world where students are all about likes, right? The world is all about likes and how much, and that like feeds into how you feel as a person and your worth and everything. And I really want students to learn as digital citizens that that's not where your worth lies. And so being very intentional about what those likes mean. So you have the like button, you have the comment, and this could be used by you as the teacher, from the students who can see each other's work, and also parents. So you can connect parents to this, but parents will only see their child's work. I want to make that clear. When parents join, they only have access and can only see their child's work. And so, and I'll show you through this presentation, through this webinar, there's very specific purposeful feedback protocol that I use with my students and with my parents. And so I would teach them this when I was in the classroom at back to school night, beginning of the school year. And now what I do is I send this out in our school newsletter about the protocol. Then you have the teacher one. So here's where you can write a private note to your students to grade it. You can also record your audio. That's the other cool thing. Even with comments, you can leave audio. You've got some choices here where you can tag the skill. So with the skills, you actually have to set this up ahead of time in your teacher account about the different skills that you're going to have. There are some preset ones that Seesaw has for you. You can do this as a grade level team. You can do this as a school. So this is something that you have to do on the back end first, where you're setting up what skills, like you can have all of them there, or you can continue to add them as you go on, but then you determine what skill you're looking for when it comes to these assignments. So it's skill-based, not like a letter grade or anything like that. You also have folder, you can set up folders. It kind of is a way to like help navigate this space. This was huge for me in terms of when we were virtual, originally for our littles, just so that way they didn't have to navigate a lot of classes in Seesaw, that instead of me having a digital citizenship classroom, I just joined as a teacher for the homeroom teacher. And so I use their space to then teach digital citizenship when I visited their class virtually. And the way to help me like keep track of the activities that I was doing with students and their responses is I would set up folders. And so that way, when I set up an activity, I made sure to mark that it was going into the digital citizenship folder. And all I had to do was like click on that to then see all the activities. Okay, I'll show you what that means because I know that's probably a lot. So I'm going to go into my school one just to show you. I'm going to go back and I switch to my teacher account. Let's see, trying to look and see if I have classes from last year. I can archive a class. So that's another thing too. You can archive classes. So let's say the past school year is done. What we do is we don't delete classes, you archive them. And that way they're like not in your view anymore, but you can still access them at any time. Parents also, once they join your students like account, like they're attached to your student, they will always see their students past work, which is really nice. And they can download them as a portfolio. But I wanted to show you what I was talking about in terms of folders. Okay, so this was the homeroom class. I'm going to click on this folder, right? And here's my digital citizenship folder. So all I had to do as a teacher is click that, and I can see all the work that was associated when I assigned activities that went in there. And it made it a lot easier for me to like go in and see what they were doing and things like that. So each lesson lasts 5 minutes, which is 5 minutes long, and then the students work on the answer. Yep, about like 5-10 minutes is the like lesson, and then the like 15 minutes of class, then they're like doing the activity. And I'll show you, like there's 15 minutes, intentional 15-minute lessons for this. All right, so I see that some of you have answered. If this was moderated, again, I would have to go ahead and approve, and that then allows for students' work to be seen by parents and by their classmates. That's another thing too I want to talk about, that this journal, think of the journal as like your timeline. You can decide as a teacher, so you'll see like students as they're doing their work, it's here for everyone to see. You have the ability as a teacher to decide whether or not you want students to see each other's work. And here's why that's important. So in the beginning, for me, when I'm working with students and I'm teaching them about like, what does it mean to see each other's work and give each other feedback? Because they, if you're in the classroom, you're going to see each other's work if you're posting it on the wall. But we typically have students put up, things that are like finished products, right? But I started to change that with my own students about like, you get to choose what you want to put up, whether it's finished or not. It doesn't have to be perfect, whatever that is. It's like process, right? Learning is a process. So taking that same mentality with Seesaw, in the beginning, I have a lot of teachers who, for their Seesaw classes, they don't allow students to see each other's work. And it's because they're like worried about like, what are they going to say? And then what if, one student feels a certain kind of way because theirs is not up to par and, about their abilities, and they're going to feel bad about each other, or about themselves. And I really have that conversation about like, let's think about, this is why we need to let our students know learning is a process. And everybody's is going to look different. It's not cookie cutter. This is why choice is important. Like if students wanted to type instead of use audio, or what about the students who want to create a video instead of, typing, or those who want to use whatever that is, like giving students choice so that way they are proud about what they're doing. They own what they're doing. They're not going to worry about whether so-and-so's looks better than mine, or whatever that is, because we're creating this space where we're learning from each other. And my work is my work, and I chose this avenue and putting my best foot forward always. So there are some teachers who choose not to do it. I will say that in the beginning, I don't do it because I want to teach them what that means. So maybe first class, I don't have all their work there, but then the next time we meet, we talk about that. And we talk about like, if you could see your friend's work, your classmates' work, what would be the purpose? Like, what would you do then? and I show them, you have the ability to like give them comments and give them likes. What would you do then? And so the students really talk about, we have that conversation about what it means to be able to view someone else's work. Now I have a wider audience because I tell them, you're not just creating because Mrs. Citizen said. Like, you should create so that way you know that others are seeing your work, right? You want an audience. You want people to like then say like bravo or give you feedback or say like, hey, next time you should add this part too, because that will like make your work even more fabulous than it was before. Like, you have those conversations and you engage with students and you set those parameters together. So the next time around, I will go ahead and make their work visible to each other. And then we talk about, all right, today, I only want you to go and heart someone's work, one person's work, if, and this, and you set the parameter, right? Or as a class, we'll say, what are we looking for today? What do we want to heart today? What work are we looking for? And so you set that up, and then the next time around, it's like, all right, let's talk about comments, and we'll talk about that. But like even letting students use emojis, right? So really setting up and preparing students. I even do this with my olders because we use Google Classroom, and what it means to like give each other feedback in that space and seeing each other and creating for a certain audience. All right. Okay, so let's get back to the slide deck. Thank you for sharing who's in this space. And thank you, Mosina. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Mosina, second grade teacher. Thank you for sharing. All right. So I wanted to just give you an opportunity to quickly like just engage and see some of the tools that are there. But we're going to move on. So here we are, digital citizenship. It's the responsible use of technology to one, learn, right? We're consuming information, we're learning new things. To create, this is where we now take students to the next level, right? We don't want them only being consumers, but we want them to be creators. We want them to leverage these tools to demonstrate what they're learning, to share their thoughts, to learn from others, and then participate. This is the part that I was just talking about. They have to have an opportunity to participate in the sense that like they are viewing each other's work. They are seeing, like having our students understand that you are creating for an audience, with an audience in mind, whether that be your parents. When I taught fifth grade, we mystery Skyped with at least one class in every state. And to do that, like we would connect and we would try to figure out where each other were. So that was the mystery part. But then afterwards, that's not where our interaction stopped. Now my students had peer reviewers who were somewhere else in the United States. And you can even do this globally, but now they've got a wider audience. So now when they're creating, right, after they've been learning and they've created, before they create, they'll come to me and say, who am I creating for today? Who's going to be my audience? And I'm like, well, you tell me, who do you want it to be? Do you want it to be that second grade class in Idaho that we connected with? Do you want it to be those 12th graders that were in New York? And then we have that conversation about, all right, so if you choose the second grader, what does that mean for you as the author to create something that your audience will understand? Does that mean that you are going to explain things a little bit more? Does that mean that you are going to use more images to do so? So we have those conversations about what does it mean as an author to create, knowing that your audience is consuming this information, that they come with certain expectations, and that you also create with certain expectations that you think that the audience is going to know, right? And so that's what that participate is. You send it out, and now like they're getting feedback, and then they're giving each other feedback, and they're engaging together in dialogue in these spaces. So really honing in on digital citizenship, moving past the whole no, 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 and don't to this is how we do it. Like the song, I just got the song in my head. This is how we do. Okay, never mind. So Common Sense curriculum. Wait, did we do that right? Yeah. Common Sense curriculum does have 6 core topics that I will say when, as we've been, let's be real. When these digital tech tools came out, like it was new for all of us, and we're all navigating this space and we're trying to figure out what does that mean and how do we do it. And initially it was all about like, no, that's the evil monster that like gives you access to everything in the world, and we have to like keep our kids and save them from it. And now we're transitioning to like, wait a minute, So we are using this. How do we do so safely, responsibly, respectfully? How do we care about everyone's privacy? How do we define who we are through this, right? I said earlier that like we have a large population, not just students, but even adults whose lives are centered on how many likes I get and who is following me and who's not, and our worth is attached to that. And how do we like move from that space to still stay who we are? That's the other part too. Like, not that I have one persona in 3D and one persona in virtual space. Like, how are we talking about that? How do we make sure that my digital footprint and my identity still stick to who I am, no matter what space it is, and not have to worry about what others are saying about me. If I have to be, selective about what parts of me I'm bringing to this space, worry about, is my digital footprint reflective of who I want it to be? So that way, when it's time for me to apply for college or apply for a job or interact with others, someone doesn't get the wrong impression about me. Or can it also show growth that, like, yes, at that time I thought this, but now I've learned and now I'm transitioning and now I know this is better. And I know that, like, that I am supposed to interact with others and learn from others, like giving our students. So common sense is really taking the opportunity. They are always transitioning and growing in how they're creating the lessons for us and the topics. And so at this moment, this is where we are with our topics and sense of, like, creating relationships and communication. Now they're tying in SEL. I mean, it's there. We have to bring it in. And so how do we do this in tandem and not just one more thing, but hey, this is where we are. This needs to be woven into what we're doing. So they do have their 6 topics. So here we go. I'll let them do a quick check-in. Done a lot of talking and demonstrating, but I would like for you to either if you're in our digital citizenship Seesaw class, and I need to go back to student. I'm going to come back here. Let's see. I want you to go back to our class. Make that small. And I want you to, this is an activity or a journal. This is a journal. So I want you to click on your journal. All right. And I know we've like added some things, but this should be pinned at the top. So that's another cool thing about Seesaw. Let's say that our journal is a long list of things. Things get lost in there. And if I don't want to do a quick activity, so that way it's not an assignment for you to turn in, but I just want you to engage in a comment really quickly, and I'm doing a check-in. This is a great way to like put something back at the top. So what I did was I pinned this to the top as a teacher. What does that mean? I'll come back to my teacher view. So here was the activity. All I did was click add. Okay. And instead of assigning an activity, I went on ahead and posted student work. And here are my options. These options are the same for you as a teacher and as a student. Okay. So what I did was I just created a drawing, and that allowed me to create this slide. Once I did this, I went to the 3 dots. And I went, typically this will say pin post, but because it's already pinned, it's asking me, do I want to unpin it? But I want to pin it so that way it goes to the top. Okay, and again, this is good because that journal keeps going on. And there's times where I'm like, all right, friends, I want you to go ahead and go to your journal. I have this, and I always project it. I have a slide for you that I want you to do a quick check-in. And the kids are like, I can't find it. So the pinning to the top, I'm like, remember, just go to the top. It's already pinned. You don't have to go searching. And they're like, you don't know how many things are already here. Yeah, so they like let me hear an earful. So Seesaw heard us, and the Seesaw gods went on ahead and changed this up for us. So pin it to the top. Here's what I want you to do. I want you, if you are in the Seesaw class, I want you to click on journal. Make sure you're looking at this and click comments. And go ahead in the comments or in the chat, if you prefer to just be here in the chat. I want you to tell me what's your level of familiarity with Common Sense's digital citizenship curriculum. So are you like a 1 that's like Common Sense what? Are you a 2, heard of it, but never used it? 3, I used it a couple of times. Or 4, I use it often. Go ahead and share it with me. Ooh, Gail said 0. I love, thank you, Gail. I love how when I do these kind of check-ins with the 1, 2, 3, 4, I always get someone who does a 0. Even the kids do that to me. They'll be like, it's a 0 in a sentence, 0, 0. You should have given that as an option. I'm like, I don't have to give it as an option now because you all just do it. So Gal said 0. I was refreshed. So Anna 2. All right, so you've heard of it but never used it. Let's see, check in the chat. Oh, there's Mosina. Mosina, please tell me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. She said a 1, so common sense, what? She's there. That wait time's a killer, right? Just want to see. So we've got like 0, 1, 2. All right, so, no matter where you are in the space, maybe this will be a review. For some of you, this will be new. We're going to take a look at the resources that are available. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Mosina. I'm glad that I pronounced it. It sounds beautiful. I love it. You have to tell me what it means too. I'm so interested in that. All right, so we've got some 0, 1s, and 2s, and maybe for some of you, you've used it all the time, or you've, seen it here and there. Ooh, it means kind. Love it. All right, so I just want to point out that on the slide deck, whenever something is clickable, you'll see a little finger that's telling you to click. So just to let you know, the Common Sense resources are free. Let me say that again. Common Sense resources for educators are free, right? They include full-on like lessons. They are customizable, so you make them fit with the time that you have, with the students that you're going for. Maybe they already have some background knowledge on certain things and you don't need all the pieces that are there. Make it work for you and your students. There are lesson slides that are there. There's even a partnership with Nearpod that they have all the lessons that are in Common Sense are then transferred over to Nearpod. It's already done for you. And what's nice about that is like you can delete slides and add slides, and again, make it customizable to what you need. And there are bilingual materials. So there are Spanish resources there as well for all the activities. So let's go ahead and take a look. So if you click on the first one, that's what I wanted to do. There we go. If you click on that top one, it will take you to the website. You'll see right here where you can join, right? You've got tabs for parents. So even parents, oh my gosh, I even signed up as a parent because I get these, I think they're like weekly emails that tell me, maybe like the latest movie that's out. And it gives me like a synopsis about it, whether my kid who's 13 and under should watch it or who should watch it. There's even information about like maybe the latest social media platform or, tools right now that I can use at home with my own kids. Like it's just a quick overview. So good. Like I said, I still use it and 3 of my 4 kids are grown. And that helps me keep up to date about what's going on, right? Like if we get another TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, what is it, MySpace, I don't know. If we get another platform, I'm going to lose my head. But trying to keep up with all those spaces is ridiculous. I don't need to do it. Common Sense will do it for me, and then I'll see it in the email. God, yeah, it gives me hives. But you can see here, there's an Educator tab. Go ahead and join for free. Because then you get access to all these resources. Okay, so right now I'm not signed in. I just want to give you the view of what it looks like. But you'll see that the 6 topics are here. What's nice is that I can navigate this space by either looking for a particular grade level, or I could I just want to look at the media balance ones. And you can see how they're connected from grade level to grade level. It builds upon, right? And this is what I love about Common Sense. It's like I was saying earlier, as every day we're learning new things about these tech tools. Common Sense is doing their due diligence to stay up with everything that's going on when it comes to tech, and they're adjusting their lessons as we go through. These lessons that are here, I believe, and I'm trying to keep my year straight because, we had a quarantine. And so that kind of like seemed like more years than one, but I believe in 2018 is when they set up these new ones. Before that, the lessons looked very similar. But again, we were transitioning from like this no space and this don't space to here's how you do it, to now not only how do you like read this information, but how do you create and participate at the same time. So they're constantly transitioning and updating and keeping us, tip top on what's going on and how we can engage our students and our families. That's the other part, but we'll get to it. And so you can see for each grade level, you can just see how they're this connected thread through all of them, and they build upon each other. So that way, students next year, when I'm working with like fourth graders, when we get to fifth grade, they're like, this again? No, because it's like a whole new, like it's still on the same topic, but it's a different way to do it. And now we're like adding new things to it. And this goes from TK to 12. Okay, so you can check that out. It's all here to click on to get to digital citizenship. Okay, so if you come back to the slide, right, and you click this box, click on that box that says digital citizenship curriculum, it will take you to all the curriculum. Okay, there's even, how do I get to the slide? Desiree will give you access to the slide. Thank you, Desiree. You'll see that there's an overview of the curriculum here too. So if you're someone who, and again, it's asking you to sign in, so again, you can sign up for your free account, but there's like this PDF where that chart is there. It breaks down, you can see the overview. This is even good if you want to like print this out as a checklist, right? You can also see that for K-1, there's not as many lessons, and I'll show you what I do in lieu of that, because remember, I'm meeting with classes every 2 weeks. Maybe you're the homeroom teacher and you're going to do this in your classroom. When I did that with my first and fifth graders, I did a lesson a month, like a structured lesson a month, but throughout the rest of the month, we were practicing those skills. We were, utilizing them as things came up. It was a learning opportunity. Hey, how can we do better next time? What did we learn from this? What's going on? How do we engage with it? How do we navigate this? So just know that if you're doing this in the classroom, every opportunity of you engaging with students online and even in person is an opportunity to practice that citizenship, whether digital or in person. So that's here for you. But it's all here and it's free. If you are someone who's trying to convince your district to do this district-wide or just at your school-wide, you can talk about what's the research behind this, right? They do their due diligence, and it's a great read too, just for your own personal use, to understand like their thinking and their process behind how they came up with these activities, how they're constantly, like I said, updating them. And now like there's a whole like a SEL component. So if you come up to digital citizenship, you'll see like these other activities. There's even like student games that they can interact with that I love using with my students. But that's for the olders, for 3-5 and 6-8. There's a toolkit, there's a whole implementation guide, so you can take a look at that. The other thing I want to point out is maybe you don't want to do, because sometimes these lessons in the curriculum may be like 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even 30 minutes. Maybe you don't have like the full length of time for that. So there's these 15-minute quick activities, which are just as impactful, just as engaging. And so you can see you have these short self-guided activities, create a positive culture, in your classroom. It walks you through, again, it's by grade level. Okay. So definitely a great place of resources to leverage and engage with. Asking for the blog password. Desiree, can you help Gail out? I'm not sure where it's asking for a blog password. Gail, where is that saying exactly? All right, so I would love to give you some time to go ahead and explore. So come back to that. Go ahead and explore either the curriculum, the 15-minute activities, or both. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes to do so. And then if you would like either go back to our Seesaw class and click on journal, you're going to answer, comment which activity are you interested in trying with your students, or go ahead and share in the chat. But I'm going to set us up for 5 minutes to do so. All right. So does anyone want to share any activity that like really stood out to them or that they're interested in maybe trying on Monday or maybe in the coming week? And I would like, you could share in the chat. Let's see, I even want to go look at. I will say that when I start off with students, I really love starting off with the media balance, especially when we were in our virtual spaces, right? Like our students were on their devices for a huge chunk of time for just learning in terms of engaging with their classmates and being with their teacher. But then we also knew that like students were going to be on their devices afterwards, right? Whether it was like navigating YouTube and watching videos, or Roblox is huge at my school with my students. Others were like using different apps because they did get to take home like their iPads and their laptops for the 3rd through 5th grade. And so we knew that they were using it afterwards. So I really love starting off with the media balance one to really talk about like why media balance is important. How do we like pause for people, for our families, just to, even for ourselves, to pause for ourselves, to just like step away from this virtual space. And then even checking in to see with how technology makes you feel. So really starting off with this for me. Now you get to decide this, like if you're doing this independently and solo, I would love to talk with you about like how I did select like how I was going to navigate it. There are suggestions by Common Sense, but like they really advise you to set that up with your district and your school and with your team to decide like which lessons you're going to do first, and how you're going to take that path. And sometimes it just depends too on what comes up with your students in your own class. She's going to try the digital citizenship. Awesome. Thank you for that. And so, really like deciding where you're going to start. But I felt it was necessary to really start with that media balance just because we now, we're utilizing that space for a large chunk of our time. And I really wanted students to understand what it really meant to like do self-check-ins, be aware, be present for other times. Like in my household, even before we were in quarantine, our rule was like anytime that we sat, if we had breakfast together, lunch together, or dinner together, that like anytime that we sat together to eat and to munch on some yummy vittles, that like digital technology was not allowed. There was no phones, no iPads, no nothing. We were there to be present with each other, have conversations, or if we just needed to eat in silence, we could do that too. But it was a time to commune together without any outside noises, without any outside influences. So setting up those little things was really important, that I love starting off with that first with my students. And so going with that, let me go back to my slideshow. So I hope that, and again, that source is there for you for free. So just to point out some reasons why you want to now use Common Sense curriculum, it's flexible, it's easy to implement. Everything is there for you, from the videos to the slide decks to the activity. And I'll show you how like I take those activities and like bring them into Seesaw. again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm not necessarily doing anything new. I'm taking the resources that are there and I'm bringing them in. They all address the 6 core topics. They teach skills and habits of mind. That's really huge, right? And what's huge for me is the fact that like these are not skills that we're just going to implement virtually. These are things that we're doing even when we're in 3D. This is just how you should be overall as a person, right? like take some self-care, balance your, the things that are going on in your life, how to be kind, how to engage with folks, even in situations that are hostile or maybe like everyone's, feelings are on high alert. Like, how do we do that? How do we show compassion? How are we empathetic and sympathetic with each other? It's developmentally engaging. That's the other thing. Like you saw that this incremental build from kinder all the way up to 12th grade. And how do you even use this with parents? There's a whole parent section that's there that I love to use. Like I will host parent webinars or parent time, especially during when we were in quarantine, but even before that, like hosting 1 or 2 a year where we're bringing parents in and we're talking about these things, giving space for parents to share their fears, to share their concerns. They're still trying to navigate this too. And so we're all doing this together. And so not only sharing what I know as a coach and as a teacher, but I also use my parent lens. And sometimes we don't get it right the first time. We don't get it right the second time. Sometimes it takes a while, but we're doing this together. That's the other important part. But we have to do something. So we can't do nothing, but we have to do something. And how do we do that something together? And Common Sense provides those tools for us to navigate and use. It's available in Spanish. Again, the family engagement resources. There's even activities like questions that parents can and videos that parents can sit down together with their families, with their kids, and like walk through those and have those conversations together. For DigCit week, one of the activities, I always had a family activity every day. On Friday, the activity was for parents to work with their kids and come up with a plan as a family for what it means to utilize technology in the home. So again, all available there on Common Sense. It aligns with the U.S. education standards. It supports E-rate compliance. There's even training resources if you are someone who is charged with providing PD for your staff or for parents. Or here's the other thing, maybe you're not charged with that, but you feel so passionate about implementing digital citizenship at your school outside of your classroom, but engaging others. And so you want those resources and you want to be able to get everyone else pumped up about it. There are resources there for you to do that. Free for you to navigate. And again, you've got a new source, so reach out to me. I'm willing to help. It's all on that website. You just click around on that digital citizenship website. And then the other huge thing is that it teaches students to think critically, right? To develop the habits of mind to navigate digital dilemmas, because they're happening. Just like they happen, person to person, there are still people that are on these in these virtual spaces. And so dilemmas come up. And so how do we navigate that? And how do we have those conversations to say that how you may approach the situation may not be the same as someone else, and how do we keep equipping those with each other with these tools, and how we're gonna navigate it. All right, so now teaching the lessons. So I've shown you where you can go to get all the lessons. I wanted to show you my schedule. So I told you I'm meeting with every class, every TK5 class at my school for 30-minute lessons every 2 weeks. When we were virtual, I visited their classrooms using Zoom. Now that I'm in person, I actually go into the classroom. So I see all, 540 plus kids at our school. And what's really cool is while it is time for teachers, technically it could be their prep time, or they can go take time for themselves. I have a lot of teachers who participate along with the students, even when we were in Zoom, which was really cool. So they were part of, our learning and our practice and our engagement. And it's nice to see that. And the kids love it too, because then that allows for that conversation to extend outside of our digital citizenship time. Right? Now, if you're in the classroom, and I did this in the classroom with my 5th graders and my 1st graders, like I said, we did directed lessons, the common sense ones, like once a month, but we were practicing those skills throughout the month, right? And that's always the key. And so when I was doing the lessons myself, I would block off like 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes depending on if I saw that it was going longer, I would maybe cut it off at 35 and then we would finish up the next day. So you just do what you see best and navigate it. There's no right or wrong. Let me just tell you that again. There's no right or wrong in terms of how you are doing this, how long you do it for. Again, those lessons are customizable. So make them fit your needs. If you want to chunk it up so that way each day you're doing it for 5-10 minutes, do what you see best. I just found what worked best for me and my students. So one thing that did work best this past year, and again, because we were virtual and because I knew that students were on devices all the time and even teachers, the world was, right? Again, this went to that media balance. I would start every class by asking our students to answer, how have you practiced media balance? And so remember, I'm seeing them every 2 weeks. So I would tell them, all right, so when I see you in 2 weeks, remember, we're going to start off class by you answering to me, how have you practiced media balance? And they would have to tell me, how did they balance their lives from the last 2 weeks from when I saw them? And how are they doing that? And so again, these connect to the lessons that were for every grade level. So kindergarten, right, connects to that lesson. How do we find a happy balance between our online and offline activities? There's even a cute video that you have to check it out with the digital citizens. There's these little cute guys that one is feet and one is arms and one is head. Oh my gosh, it's too cute. You have to check it out. And they all represent something. 1st grade. Why is it important to listen to your feelings when you're using technology, right? When is your mind and your body and your soul telling you you've had enough, it's time to get off? And how do you get to that point before it even tells you, right? How are you feeling when you're in a space and maybe someone is asking you questions, personal questions about yourself, and you don't even know this person, you haven't met them in real life, and how does that make you feel? And what do you do in those situations, right? So that's all connected. 2nd grade, you've got device-free moments. So I just wanted to show you an example of how it's connected in every grade level. I just focused on the littles, but here's what I would do. I would set this up in Seesaw. So taking the same ideas, but I would go to Seesaw and do a citizenship check-in. So you go ahead, if you can, go back to our digital citizenship Seesaw class. What you would do, I want to show you the student view. Here it is. I thought I lost my screen. So here's my student view. And I'm going to click on activities. And this was there every week for my TK5. For my olders, I would set this up on Google Classroom, right? So this was 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, depending on how long, there were some times where students were struggling. And so we would take that time that maybe for the next 25 minutes of class, we were talking about that struggle and what are some strategies that we can come up with and what could we do next time? And we want to love on this person who was struggling or maybe experienced a dilemma. They are guiding our class. So if we didn't get to that lesson that day in a 30-minute time, it's okay because we did a different kind of lesson. We did a lesson that really poured in on our students and we worked together as a community to come up like I said, with solutions and strategies and some ideas and how can we do it next time? Or maybe it was something to celebrate. And they all did a phenomenal job of balancing. And they were we were intentional. We were purposeful about not having certain time. And so we would spend the class celebrating and talking about that. So sometimes our lesson wasn't necessarily the lesson that was scripted or that was prepared because the students' needs were in a different way. And I'm going to go ahead and capitalize on that. So here's this activity. Again, it's set up oh wait, I'm here as a student. What do I need to do? That's right. I joined later. Some of you might be experiencing that too. Remember I told you, so because here it is, the check-in. That's right. So right now, you probably don't even see this. I'm glad I remembered. So the citizenship check-in. So remember, I added this before any of you joined the class. As the teacher, I'm going to come to my activity, go to the 3 dots, click edit activity. I want to come right here, see it says assign to sample student and me. So that means it's not to all of you. So I'm going to come click on edit. You're all here. I clicked all of you. Check mark, save. And now on your end, remember the magic button, click refresh. And just like magic, it's there. There's the activity, right? The kids love when I do those kinds of things, when they get to like, I always tell them it's like Disneyland pulling back the curtain, right? You get to see where all the pixie dust comes from. So the kids think I'm a wizard when it comes to these kind of things. But here's the check-in, right? So students will check on it. The directions are all there. So there's 3 pages to this. So it's like a slide deck. On page 1, they're going to use the pencil to draw a picture to show how you stayed safe online when using an iPad or computer. Then they're going to use the microphone to explain their drawing because, you know, K2 drawings, sometimes I have to really put on my thinking cap and think really hard about what they're drawing. So it's easier for them to record. And we know their story changes all the time. So now we've got to document it. Page 2, use the pencil to draw something you did not do on your iPad. And again, use the microphone to explain your drawing. And then on page 3, they're going to use the pencil to draw how they're feeling today. I always want to know how my students are feeling, and I'm looking at those, right? Because if I see that sad face, or man, I had one student who drew like this whole storm thing, and I was like, hey, I'm checking in with you. Do we, you know, when we were virtual, do we need to move into, you know, a breakout room, or do you want to talk afterwards? And a lot of times they're like, we can talk afterwards. I'm here for it. And I'm like, can you be present right now? Or do you need to take time away, even in person? Hey, until that you put this, do you want to chat right now? Do you want to wait till later? What do you need at this moment? And students appreciate that. So setting up that space to check in with students and give them that space to then like either take the time to go like do some quick self-care, if they need to step away, if they're willing to be there, and I'm like, just do what you can, you know. And again, I'm going to check in with them afterwards, pull them to the side. Students are okay with that, and they're not like worried that someone else. And I know this is for TK5, and maybe you have middle school and high school, but kids are kids, and they just want to know that they're being heard, and that like if they are going through things, and maybe the first couple times you do this, they just always put a happy face, but later on they'll tell you, and they'll even say like, in the beginning I didn't tell you because I was worried. You want to set up that space, and they continually see that that's what you're doing. So I check in with kids, they go on ahead, they draw it, they give their responses for each slide, so it's already set up. You'll notice that there's a play button because I also record, again, from my youngers, the directions, so that way they'll know on each slide, because they'll still get to the slide and be like, what does it say? What do I need to do? And I'm like, press the play, but even other students, the audio's there, click the audio, so they can click it. Draw something you did when you were not on your iPad during your break, right? So giving them those opportunities to go ahead and do that. And I just wanted to show you some, I think I did, included some student examples. I'll go back to that question. Oh, maybe not. I thought I did. I always love to share examples. Did I move it somewhere else? Here we go. I'm jumping ahead. Don't worry about it on your slide. You'll see it. But so here are some examples, right, of students like drawing. They stayed safe by not like sharing their password. When they weren't on their iPad, they were playing. They're happy today. You can see the student, they stayed safe. Oh, they wore their earbuds. That's how they were staying safe. So that way they could listen and hear to what they were doing. So those are some examples that you can take a look at. And again, those are from my youngers. So I want to do a quick check-in. I know our time is coming up, but I just want to see, right? How can you integrate digital citizenship check-ins with your students? So if you want to share in the chat, if you want to unmute yourself really quickly, just to like check in, how could you possibly integrate this with your students or even with your staff, right? If you're someone who works with staff, to do a quick check-in, like how are you practicing media balance? How did you practice this past week? It was nice too, because I shared with my students, but I also practiced media balance, and we would look at that. Like I would say, ooh, you know what, on Friday, I was on the computer from like 8 in the morning to 8 at night. And they're like, Ms. Citizen, that is not healthy. How did your eyes feel afterwards? Like, right? Like they do all the things that you do. And so we talk about it. Some students don't do anything without saying what they need to do. Absolutely. Right? So really just giving students a chance to go ahead and check in, I think is really important. And it also is a great way for like self-awareness. And I was going to say another word and I just forgot it, but being able to regulate, self-regulation, there it is, about how much that you're being online. Okay, let's move through this because I know our time is jumping down. So access to Seesaw activities. So again, I've told you how I went on ahead and took, again, I took the lessons from Seesaw, from digital citizenship, and then I like brought them over to Seesaw. So I want to show you what some of those are. They are the lessons that I was doing on Seesaw were connected to the digital citizenship lesson. I did modify them to a certain extent, depending on the time and activity that we were doing. You're so welcome. So not to reinvent the well, right? Like common sense did all the work for us. And it's, you know, that's the other thing too. I did vet it first. Like I looked it over. I just didn't take their word to be like, hey, they're the guru on digital citizenship. No, I went to go take a look. That's why it's there. Look at it. Make sure they're like staying on the up and up because they do listen to feedback. So, oh, thanks. I always modeled for the large group using sample students. So this is something I do want to point out. Oh, I do want to point out on Seesaw. Okay. Now, what's nice is that even though like right now I have you joining as a student, just so that way you can like be in my class. When you are in your own class, if you are new to Seesaw, or maybe you've been using Seesaw and you didn't know how to use the sample student, I just want to show you. So right now I'm in my teacher view. You'll notice that this on the right-hand side, this panel shows me all my students who are in my class. The first one is always sample student. And that is there because a lot of us were like, we need to know what the students are seeing. And what if I want to demonstrate for my kids, like how to do this and how to navigate this space? Because there's a lot of tools here, blah, 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 right? Like, that was weird how I said that. So Seesaw went on ahead and created this sample student for us. So here's how I love to use it because I want to model for my students, right? What I'm doing. Even though I can always include an example, students really want to see it sometimes in real time. So what I'll do is, here's the activity, right? So as I'm showing this, whether in person or if we're in virtual space, I'll say, all right, friends, so I'm here in my activities. I'm going to go ahead and add a response. And you'll see that as the teacher, it's asking me, who do you want to add a response as? Well, I don't want to add as my students. So I'm going to go ahead and click on sample student, right? And now I can demonstrate like, all right, so here I am, I chose my person. Now as a student, you're automatically there. But as a teacher, I get to choose. So I'll tell them, all right, so, oh my gosh, wait, I don't know what that word is. Oh, okay, you know what, wait, I can see that the teacher made an audio.
How did you stay safe when you went online?
Oh, yes, okay, wait. Did I understand it? So I like mimic this all there. But as a teacher, now I can go ahead and remember the direction said I'm going to use the pencil. Okay, I'm going to draw with the pencil. So here it is. And I can select my color. And now I'm going to like draw myself, right? Showing how I stayed safe when I was online. And like practice this over and over again. right? And so different color and use my iPad, right, with all my apps. And so I can go ahead and show them. And I'm like, all right, so I did my first one. Oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to record. So I can record my voice. Then I go to slide number 2. There's my directions. So then I can go ahead and click, and I show them when I'm all finished. What do I do, friends? Click the green button with the check mark. Yes, click the green button with the check mark. And now my activity is submitted. Okay. So again, as the teacher, I can demonstrate any of these activities by just clicking add a response and then choosing sample student. And then I, do all the things that students are doing. Yes, the students completed these activities independently. There were times where I would put them into breakout rooms and they can work together, right? Even now in person, being safe when they are working together, now they can't, so I will say this, in Seesaw, they can't work on the same activity at the same time on the same deck. So it's not like Google Slides where if I share it with you and we can work collaboratively together. That's not how Seesaw is set up yet. I don't know if that's coming or not, but at this time they would do it independently. But like they can talk together and talk about things together. Now, pre-pandemic, I would have students like sit together and they would work on one slide. So let's say I would say, all right, Desiree, you and Gail are going to work together, but Gail's going to do it from her Seesaw, right? And just make sure that on the front you put Gail, both of your names on there, but you're going to submit it under Gail's activity or under Gail's name. So I used to do it that way. I haven't done that yet since we've been back, but like that's where I'm headed. So those are some ways that they could do it collaboratively. So before I told you that when we were virtual, I did all the activities through the homeroom teachers class, but this year I went on ahead and set up a digital citizenship class for every one of my classes. So I didn't, let's see, this is not my school one. So for my school one, I wanted to show you, this is my school one, go back. Being a teacher. So you'll see that I have all these classes for digital citizenship, and I love to use emojis. So I put the emoji first. That actually puts my class above all the other teachers' classes. So when I'm with them, I'm like, all right, friends, who remembers how to log into Seesaw? And they always end. And I'm like, all right. And then who remembers how to get to our digital citizenship classroom? They raise their hand. All right, friends, go ahead and do it. And if someone is struggling, you can either raise your hand, I can come help you, or ask your neighbor. And so they'll be like, it's the one with the laptop. It's the one with the laptop. So they know now how to navigate to get into their classes. I didn't do this in the virtual space just because it was a lot for them to deal with, and it was a lot easier just to go through their homeroom teacher. But now that we have our own class, the kids are like, we have a DigCit class. So that's something that you can do as well. Let's see what else we have here. And then students giving each other feedback using emojis, and we'll look at that. I'm trying to get to it. I know we're running down time, but yeah, giving each other feedback. Now for my olders, we use text, but for the youngers, to start them off as they're acquiring written language, I'll say, go ahead and use emojis, which is nice, especially if you're on the iPad, right? There's an option for the emoji keyboard. On the computer, students have figured out how to find emojis. I can't think of how they're doing it right now. If you're interested in that, let me know and I can find out from my kids. They'll tell you. So here's what I want you to do, and I'm only going to give you 2 minutes to do so. So on the next slide, so if you have our slide deck, on the next slide, I want you to take a look at the Seesaw activities that are linked on the slide. And then I just want you to share how you might use this with your students. So you can either share that in the chat, you can either share that on your journal in Seesaw, but here they are. So it's slide number, for those of you, 23, if you're using this at home. They're all clickable. Remember, the little hand is there. So they're all linked, but you would click on it and then it takes you to the activity that you can see. Now, here's the cool thing. Again, I don't want you to reinvent the wheel either. So if you do have your own Seesaw teacher account, or maybe you're going to create one after you do this, and I'll even give you like that special code so you can do it. Then you notice that it like shows you the activity, but it has a save activity. So if you save this activity, it goes into your library. You have a library in your Seesaw, and then it's yours. And the cool thing is that when you do so, let's see, I'll go to my teacher view. All right. So to get to your library, just so I can show you, I'm in my teacher view. I'm going to go to assign activity. And when I do that, it takes me to activity library. And so you have access to your library. But you have your library and then you have your community library. So there are teachers like myself who are like submitting lessons to Seesaw, and they're vetted. Like we have to fill out this whole thing, and we have to make sure it's engaging, and that we're using like all the accessibility tools. But you have lessons that are there that then you can then add to your library. So like in this case, right, if you click save activity, it would then, I just want to show you, it's going to go ahead and put it into it was already there before, but it's going to put into my library. Now, the cool thing is that once it's in your library, I can either leave it as is, or Seesaw is amazing. If you come into the 3 dots that are in the bottom right-hand corner, I can copy it and edit it. So it makes a copy of your original activity so it stays the same, right? I always tell people, make copies of it, because you never know if you want the original, or maybe there was something that you took out that you want later, all this stuff. But you can copy it, and then, my friends, you can edit. So you can like change the title and change the directions and add your own audio, and you can add multimedia instructions and then attach a template, all those good things, right? You would have notes. Earlier, I talked about the skills. I forgot who asked me about like grading these things. And like I said, they're not graded, but you can assign skills to them that you get to determine. You can set that up while you're setting up your activity, and then you save it, and it's in your library forever and ever because it's yours. Yep. So that's something to take a look at. And if you have Seesaw schools, meaning if your school pays for it or if your district pays for it, there will actually be another thing that says school library. Let me see. This is my school one. Oh, school and district. So then any activities that like teachers in my district are creating and like making available for us to see are also there. How cool is that? Right? That's if you have it's called Seesaw schools, that then they're paying for. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely check that out. So all those lessons are there. For the sake of time, I'm gonna like shoot ahead because I want you to know what's all here, because I know we're not gonna be able to like keep on doing activities. But the links are all there. And again, what I've done is just I've taken the Seesaw, the common sense education lessons, like the documents that they have there and activities that they have there, and even video, and I just bring them over into Seesaw. And I'm always sharing them out. So if you're like maybe in a couple months, you're like, hey, Leticia, have you like done any more? Can you shoot me over some? I'll like send you the link to Seesaw. Really simple and easy. I love sharing. So again, not about reinventing the wheel, but all these things are there for you to take and use. Here are some examples. Again, I showed you some of these earlier with the kiddos, kid building blocks, and he's giving me a thumbs up to tell me that he's feeling okay. This kid was playing Roblox, playing Uno with mom, just some cool. This kid was sad, so we checked in with each other for a little bit, so that way he could tell me what was going on. And then feedback. Feedback is huge, okay? So this is the purpose of feedback I was talking about earlier. This is something that I use with my 3 through 5 students. And then maybe mid-year, I start to have my first and second graders do it. Okay, so I initially start this off with my olders, slowly transition my youngers into this. This is what I also share with my teachers when we're doing PD together, and also with my parents. So that way, when they're giving comments to their students, they will use this as well. So we start off with a compliment, right? And I tell them, be specific. You can't just say this was cool. Tell me why it was cool, people. You tell me that and I don't know what you're talking about. Then make a personal connection, right? And then lastly, end with the question. And that question needs to be about something that you just read, but like the answer can't be in what you just saw or read or in their creation. Like it's an extension of what is going on. And I have them to end with that because then I also give time for students to go and read the feedback, and then they're going to respond back. So now you've created this dialogue that's going on. I do this for every activity with my students. Again, because I want them to know that what they've created and what they've shared is being read by others outside of the teacher, with an authentic audience, and that they're getting feedback and someone cares and like has connected to what you've shared, and that they have questions about it, right? And that they're also sharing this compliment about like, yo, your word choice really helps me create an image in my head, or I really love that picture, your skills are tight, you know, like whatever it is, but really letting them know that someone not only read and like saw your stuff, but really cared about it as well. So here's some examples with my olders, with some of the activities that we're doing, and you can see that they're like sharing these in-depth things. Now, I want to let you know, it doesn't look this way in the beginning, right? Students are learning. So giving them every opportunity to practice giving each other feedback, to see the growth in that, and to see how connected they are to other people's work is amazing. The growth is such an honor to witness as a teacher. So this is what it, starts to look like for the olders. For the youngers, use those emojis. They love emojis, right? And use audio. That's one thing I love about Seesaw, is that they have these different accessibility tools, like whether I want to draw, or if I want to write, or if I want to record my voice, or if I want to do a video, and I want you to see the craziness that I have. Love using that. So in the comments, so for some of you that were like there, you saw that you could either type or you could record your voice on there, right? Because they're still trying to acquire the written language. And sometimes I set up what the emojis mean. So I might say, use the party one because like maybe they shared the same thing like you. Or if they made you think of a question, go ahead and put the thinking one. Or if you just loved what they said, right? So you can go ahead and determine what those emojis mean, or you can just let it be a free-for-all. So here's an example of in the beginning, when students are just having a free-for-all, I'm like, go give them emojis. Go look at their work, give them emojis. You can see here that Leah wanted to do a recording. She recorded an audio for her response. You can see up here that now like Leah is transitioning to using words and giving feedback that way. That's always cool to do. So I was going to do a check-in, but again, because we're pressed for time, you can always go. You have access to our Seesaw class. You can go ahead and share with me there. I would love to read how you are using or would use feedback with your students. I wanted to show you the Buncee virtual classroom that I set up, all right, to share YouTube videos of book reading, deliver directions on a whiteboard, all these great things. I just want to go through it really quickly and show you what it is. So I had set this up initially when we were in a virtual space, but I still use this now that we're in person. So leveraging Buncee, and if you even click on that, that is clickable. That will take you to other Buncee classrooms that I created. But I loved using this in tandem with digital citizenship. So like I showed you earlier, for kinder and first grade, there's not a lot of lessons that Common Sense created. So this was another way to bring in other resources. Last year, I started looking for video and books that had to do with digital citizenship. And because I was here and I didn't have a lot of the books, I had not bought a lot of the books, I went on YouTube and found and I had to do my due diligence of finding videos that read the book in a way that was engaging for students and that showed the pages. I wanted to make sure, and I listened to it first and I vetted them. And then I was like, how do I make this available for my students to access without all the commercials and all the side advertisements that are going on and the other videos, because all that stuff, I tell my students, all that information is still going in subconsciously. Our minds are picking that up. So Buncee was a great way for us to do this. You can even upload these onto Seesaw. And so my students could go ahead and click it and the video would play. Oh, wait, let's see. The video would play right there for students. So I would do this in class, right? We would listen together as a class. And I would enlarge.
Lizzie loves school. She loves it almost more than anything.
Right. And so I could stop the video along the way. And then what I would do afterwards is we would talk about it. And sometimes we might watch it 2 times. And then I would just create a quick activity on Seesaw for students to go ahead and complete to show me, to demonstrate what was one thing that you learned about digital citizenship from the book, or what are some ways that you can implement this with yourself. So again, these are all linked here for you to use, to analyze, at your discretion. The recordings are there too, so if you wanted to use it outside. So I linked it to the Buncee, and I also linked it to the original recording on YouTube, so you can use as you see fit. Again, I just love leveraging Buncee, and I even set it up I personalized it. I put a timer there. Sometimes I would have directions here for students, especially for my olders. You can see I brought in the calendar. I just really personalized it, and it was just a different way to do it, not only in the virtual space, but doing it in person. I still use this. What slide is this on? Good question. This is on slide 39. And again, it is linked. So you see that little finger there. All right. And then slide 41 is where all the other links are for you as well. So some quick takeaways. I'm trying to rush, and I'm really sorry about this. So some quick takeaways. Number 1, remember that we are moving from a space of being reactive to being proactive with our learning and with our responses, and with giving our students opportunities to practice being a digital citizen in these virtual spaces. Okay, we're moving from a no and a don't to this is how we do it. I keep laughing every time I do it. Set up reflection spaces after each lesson, not only for students to give each other feedback, but also to talk about and reflect on that lesson. So I've again linked some Flipgrids that are here. Remember, it's clickable. I've linked you to some Flipgrids that I've shared for others to access, where I've taken the topic for the digital citizenship lesson and then asked students, share, how can we be upstanders when we are cyberbullying? Reflecting on our lesson, please share strategies to deal with the cyberbully and ways to be an upstander, right? So just taking these same ideas. These images all came from digital, from Common Sense Education. Again, it's there for you to have and take, that you can bring these into your own collections on Flipgrid to use, or you can set it up on Seesaw for your littles. But littles love those using Flipgrid too. So you've got options, right? Find what works best for you and your students. Tip number 3, provide opportunities for students to practice what learning about digital citizenship is and give each other feedback. So not only reflecting individually, but then giving each other feedback on the work that they're doing, but opportunities for students to practice this with each other, with their global peers, with their parents, with their school community. They've got options, but make it go far beyond just the teacher and each other in class. Okay. Tip number 4, give students freedom to explore and dance to the songs. Common Sense has a lot of videos with the digital citizens where they're singing and dancing, and they're sharing their message through that way. The kids love it. So there's times where we have a dance party and we turn on one of the songs and they get to dance it out, right? That's how we're starting class. Or after we do our media balance check-in, then we go ahead and we're what song we're doing today, right? But giving them a chance to dance and learn and engage with those songs in ways that are just free to be is really exciting. Be open and honest about your own media balance. Like really being part of the class, sharing in those spaces too, showing how vulnerable you are and things that you're doing is really helpful. And the kids love it. Now when they see me around campus, they're like, "Did you take a break today, Miss Citizen, from your device?" And I'm like, "Yep, I'm on a walk right now." Like they love having those conversations. And then you even hear them talking about it with their parents. So be part of the process as well. And then bring in your families. And I talked about these earlier, but bringing in those digital citizenship family tips that Common Sense already has done for you. So click on that link. It takes you to that page. It's broken down from K-5 to 612. You've got SEL, you've got family tips, family activities. It's all there and it's free, people, to use. And so at my school, what I do is we have a newsletter that goes out every week to our school community. And I may share like every third week or something, just depends. But I take those tips and you'll see that, I give credit to Common Sense Media. Go ahead and use my APA style. And I go ahead and I copy that and I put that there because it's going out every week to our school community for them to access. So sharing those tips. And parents will reach out and ask you questions if they do have them. So I did want to do a quick reflection with you all. Your wow, how, and now. If you want to share it in the chat, if you want to share it in our Seesaw class, but I love doing this. What was your wow? What was your big takeaway? You got to have one. I know at least one, right? Your how. Got burning questions? You may have more than one. You may have none. Awesome. But if you got questions, put them in the chat. And what is your now? What is your personal challenge that you are like, I'm going to do this, next week, as soon as I go back to class? What can you do tomorrow with all of your new learning? Go ahead and share that. I'm interested in seeing, or share it on Twitter. Go on Twitter and share it there. But I can't wait to see Thank you again. Just want to leave you with this. Schools are creating a positive culture. Oh, and in the eval. Yes. That's great. Thank you. So schools are creating a positive culture around media and technology by incorporating digital citizenship education as part of the curricula. Again, don't make it as one more thing embedded in everything that you're doing, because you're doing this all the time. The minute that you have kids create, the minute that you have them consume, the minute you have them open up that tablet or device or whatever it is, they're doing digital citizenship. And so they can either do it the wrong way and not learn from it, or they're going to learn how to do it under your guidance. And here's the other part. Maybe you have no clue either and you're still learning. Learn together and have those conversations and really talk about how we're navigating it. And there's even a link here. I should have put my little hand for guided research. So check that out. And thanks for joining. I know it was a lot. It was so much. Find me on Twitter.
So much awesomeness is what it was.
Oh, thank you.
So much awesomeness. Thank you so much. Not just for the presentation and like looking at Seesaw and looking at the student side versus the teacher side and all the little tips for like if things go right, if things go wrong, but then just bringing in the digital sit component and giving so many resources and so many ways you can actually incorporate everything together. I mean, just an amazing and very quick 2 hours. So thank you so much.
It went so fast.